We all know that fighting games can be incredibly hard to get into. They are some of the most difficult video games out there to learn, and a lot of the time the game that you actually want to play doesn't even properly teach you how to play it. And with this, there's always gonna be a super big challenge that is gonna be present in every single fighting game that you want to play, which is learning how to play neutral. And neutral is essentially the stage of a fight in which none of the players are necessarily on offense or defense, and they are actively trying to understand how to run their game plan or the playstyle that they actually want to play. And this could depend on many different things, like for example the character that you like to play, the game that you're playing, or even the specific matchup that is happening on that fight. And many people consider, because of this and the incredible depth and complexity that neutral can have, one of the hardest things to learn in every single fighting game out there. Well, what if I told you that there's a system of principles that I'm gonna teach you in this video to learn neutral in every single fighting game that you like? It doesn't matter which one it is. But why should you hear me though? I'm just a regular guy that loves to make content and loves to play fighting games. Well, the reason is because I'm just like you. I'm a regular person that has learned to play fighting games over the years and has been able to reach relatively high ranks in multiple games following these principles to learn neutral relatively quickly and effectively. For example, I've gotten 4 different characters to Master Rank in Street Fighter 6, I've also gotten 4 different characters to Tekken King or Tekken Emperor in Tekken 8, then I've also reached Grand Master Rank in 2xKO multiple times, and I've also been able to go back to games that I haven't played for years and recover my ability to play neutral relatively quickly because of these principles in games like Ball FighterZ or Guilty Gear Strive. And you can do the same, you just need to hear me out until the end of this video. And now, let's get into it. Okay, so let's talk about the first principle to learn neutral in any fighting game, and this is what I'm gonna call the systems-based principle. And for this, I actually want you to take a step back from the way you understand your favorite fighting game. And why do I say this? Because I would argue that most of the time, most people also understand the game that they like through the lens of a character. Let's say, for example, that you like Street Fighter 6 as your favorite fighting game, and you play Ryu, which is your main, and it is essentially kind of like the only character that you play. Well, you understand neutral on SF6 mostly because you understand Ryu, not because you understand the actual game. And in reality, there is a lot of options that are connected to the system mechanics of Street Fighter 6 that are incredibly strong, even arguably stronger than any character-specific options that Ryu has to play neutral. And this is something completely generalizable that you can apply to most fighting games out there, because it's gonna help you to learn neutral on a first layer, which is what are the overall good options in this game that are not even connected to the gameplay identity of the character that I like, but the identity of the game itself. And Street Fighter 6 again is a great example for this, just like most of any other modern fighting game. Why? Because developers have made an active decision of trying to make system mechanics stronger to basically diminish the gap in power levels in the roster of their games and make everyone viable. So a lot of the best options to play neutral, defense, and offense in many different fighting games that are modern are actually related to the system mechanics, not to your character. And let me actually show you multiple examples of what I'm saying so you can understand me better. Street Fighter 6 is again great to illustrate all of this, because what is one of the best, if not to say just the best option to play neutral on SF6, and even professional level players I know will actually agree with me, is Drive Rush. And Drive Rush is not dependent on any character's moveset, it's actually something connected to the drive gauge, which is universally available to every single character in the game. Another great example for this are games like 2xKO, Ball FighterZ, Marvel vs. Capcom, or any tag fighting game out there, because most of the time one of the best options to play neutral in tag fighting games are assist. And even though assists of course have different power levels and they are attached to characters and their moveset, a lot of the time there's multiple styles of assist that can help you to play neutral even more effectively than any move that is attached to the character that you're actively playing. So the next time that you want to understand neutral better in any fighting game that you want to play, take a step back from the uniqueness and the identity of the character that you like and think, how do the systems of this game pave the road to play neutral? How do they condition the way in which neutral is played, and which are the best options attached to the system mechanics that can allow me to win most of the interactions in the game? Hey, if you don't want to get jump scared by a Street Fighter 6 character drive rushing on your face on loop ever again, please consider giving this video a like and subscribing to support the channel, especially if you've been enjoying the content, find it useful, or learn something new. Thank you for the support, and let's continue with the video. Okay, and now we will need to move into the second principle to learn neutral in any fighting game, and this is what we are gonna call the situation-based principle. And what this tries to explain is that in most fighting games, to not just say all of them, you're gonna find that there's a list of universal archetypical situations in terms of gameplay that are gonna be present in almost every single fighting game that you're gonna play. And all of these almost universal situations are attached simultaneously to all of the tools that you can use in the game, like the system mechanics, what your character does, and more, but it is more important to understand them as a specific concept than an actual tool in your character's kit. And one of the best games to exemplify all of this is Tekken 8, because even though T8 has really strong system mechanics, just like Street Fighter 6, they are not necessarily connected to playing neutral. They are more related to maximizing offense, right? Having better mix-ups, better frame traps, and opening your opponent up, and maybe having some extra panic buttons like rage charts. But at the same time, Tekken has a very clear list of situations that happen every single match, depending on, for example, the range in which you're fighting on the screen. If you are in a full range neutral situation, you are probably going to see a very clear dichotomy between rushdown and keep out. One player that, for example, has a very offensive character and has really good while running moves or command grabs while running is maybe just gonna go in and try to open you up right away. And the other player that might be playing a character that has really good buttons and really good range in his normals is gonna try to keep out the space and basically play a more defensive stance on the neutral. And this is what we could understand as universal situations in neutral that are gonna be present in almost, to not just say every single match that you play. And why is it so relevant to understand all of this to learn neutral in any fighting game? Because if you actually comprehend this principle, you can connect and apply directly the specific moves in the character that you like and the system mechanics in the game that you like to play to these situations. For example, let's go to Street Fighter 6 again. You're playing full screen range, you're Cammy against a Ryu. What do you think are the best options for Cammy to deal with Ryu's zoning since she doesn't have a fireball? Well, aside from the general options in the game like movement and parry, Cammy has unique moves to her that can go through fireballs and transform any zoning situation in a huge combo punishment with a ton of damage. And that is a very specific tool in Cammy's moveset that deals with the universal long-range situation of a fireball war or fireballs versus rushdown characters. And thanks to all of this, you're gonna be able to create a representation in your head of all the situations in the game that you like that constantly happen every single match, and how you can attach them to the best tools of your character and the system mechanics, so that in that way you can actively avoid the neutral that you don't want to deal with and force the neutral that your character shines doing. And with this, we can move into the last principle of this video to learn neutral in any fighting game that you like. And it is what we are gonna call adaptation-based neutral. And this is gonna be the hardest stage to learn in any fighting game, especially if you're a newer player, because there's nothing as hard as adapting to the playstyle and options that your opponent uses. It's specifically for one reason that I feel many people forget when they're playing, and that is that you are actually fighting another human, okay? I feel like a lot of the time, especially newer players, kind of treat the game, even if they play online, as if they were playing against a CPU, and they mostly do the same things over and over with very low or almost zero levels of adaptation towards what the opponent is doing. And this is going to be the biggest challenge for anybody that wants to get better at fighting games, actually understanding and kind of like integrating in your mind that you're playing against another person that is actively trying to maybe change their game plan because of the way you play. And this obviously could make you have incredibly bad results if you don't have that awareness to maybe change your playstyle and adapt the way in which you're playing a game depending on the person that you're playing against. And the absolute truth, to be completely honest with you, is that there are not that many shortcuts to adapting your neutral when it comes to fighting different styles of people and their gameplay. But I'm gonna give you some tips to deal with the adaptation process in a more straightforward way that could be less overwhelming. Advice number 1, actively look for your opponent's patterns in their neutral and playstyle, because most of the time, even if you're playing against a really good player that is able to adapt to what you do and the way you play, they're still gonna have a natural tendency. And you are gonna see that some people, for example, have a tendency for offensive options and they like to get in. They use relatively maybe risky options on defense like reversals or armor moves, while other players can have a more defensive stance on the neutral and their overall playstyle. And for example, instead of prioritizing their offense, they actively look for your mistakes with punishing you, or maybe even waiting until you do something unsafe. And if you're able to identify these patterns in behavior and the playstyle of your opponent, you're gonna have a much easier time adapting to what they do and also putting them in an uncomfortable situation. And the ideal world would be for you to have access to both of these playstyles and actually change them depending on the opponent that you're facing and what would be a stronger option to deal with how they like to play. Advice number 2, learn the value of not doing anything at all in neutral. I think that many different players with different styles struggle a lot in multiple different fighting games because when they play a game online or maybe even in a tournament setting, they just show all their guns right away. You know, they are gonna fight someone, it's a completely new different opponent, and in the first round they show all the tricks that they have under their sleeve and then suffer because the other player was able to adapt to all the things that they showed really early. And I believe that it is actually very relevant to not show all the tools that you have right away and maybe save some of the strongest options that your character and the game that you play has in a situation in which your opponent is not ready for them because you have not shown that trick before. So maybe it is relevant for you to take a step back and not show every single strength that you have as a player and the character that you're playing. So be calm and try to see how you can show less but do more. And for the last tip, advice number 3, stop trying to win neutral so much. Okay, I know that it sounds stupid, it's a whole video about learning neutral, how to have good neutral in any fighting game, and I'm telling you to not worry about it. And the reason why I say this is because if you ask, again, super high level players, which I'm not, but I know this, they're gonna tell you in many different contexts that they are not even thinking when they play neutral. They are just actively trying to use the best options that their character and the game that they are playing has. And it's something that over time gets automatized. It connects with muscle memory and with how much you know your character and the game that you like. So over time, you know, with your experience and practice and playing games that you enjoy, you're gonna see that the fights in which you play the best neutral are the ones in which you literally turn your brain off. So start to think if you're maybe being too anxious about neutral always when you play, you overthink it too much, and just play. Stop thinking and just start doing more. And that was the whole video. I truly hope that it helped you, that it was useful for you to learn something new, to feel more comfortable with the fighting that you like, or even to actually get into fighting games, because I think that everybody should play a fighting game at least once in their life. If they like video games, it is one of the most fun video game genres out there and one of the most rewarding. If you enjoyed the video, of course, or you find it useful, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to support the channel, and keep enjoying fighting games. Remember to have fun, and see you on the next one. Take care.